I never thought my summer would turn into something so different when I took on the job as a guide for a caving group that organized camps for kids. You see, my summer was supposed to be filled with simple, ordinary things like hanging out with friends and maybe getting a part-time job at the local grocery store. But one day, out of the blue, I got an opportunity that changed everything. The opportunity came in the form of an email. It was from a camp that I'd never heard of before, and it said they were looking for a guide to lead children through caves. It sounded exciting, and they promised a decent amount of money for the work. I thought to myself, why not? It could be an adventure, and I could use the cash. So I replied to the email and set up an interview. When I arrived at the campsite, I didn't know what to expect. The place was far away from the city, surrounded by tall trees and the sounds of nature. It felt like a different world altogether. I was introduced to the other guides, Mia, Liam, and Olivia. They seemed friendly, but there was something unusual about the atmosphere. It was as if the forest itself held a secret, and the campsite was whispering it to us. During our orientation, the camp director, Mr. Harrison, sat us down and told us about the job. He explained that we'd be guiding kids, aged 10 to 15, through a network of caves in the area. At first, it all sounded quite ordinary. We'd teach them about the caves, their history, and the importance of preserving the environment. But then, Mr. Harrison's tone changed when he mentioned the cave's graffiti. He warned us that some of the graffiti in the caves was strange, unsettling, and sometimes even frightening. He said it was crucial not to let the kids get too close to it and to keep them away from areas where this graffiti was prevalent. That raised a question in my mind. Why was there creepy graffiti in the caves in the first place? As we continued with the orientation, Mr. Harrison also told us about a local legend. It was the legend of the Watcher. He described it as a malevolent spirit that was said to haunt the caves, especially during the summer months. I remember thinking it was probably just a story to spook us, but the way he described it sent a shiver down my spine. He urged us to be cautious and to always stay close to the kids. That's when I began to wonder if there was more to this job than met the eye. So, as I sat there in the middle of the forest, listening to the tale of the Watcher and the warning about the graffiti-covered caves, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Little did I know that this job, which had seemed so ordinary at first, would soon become a summer I'd never forget, filled with mystery, fear, and unanswered questions. When I arrived at the remote campsite for the summer job as a guide, I felt a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The campsite was tucked away in the woods, far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Tall trees surrounded us, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. It was a picturesque setting, but there was an unusual aura about the place that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I met my fellow guides, Mia, Liam, and Olivia. They all greeted me with smiles, and we exchanged brief introductions. Despite their friendly demeanor, I sensed that they too were affected by the strange ambience of the campsite. We gathered around a picnic table for our induction session, led by Mr. Harrison, the camp director. Mr. Harrison was a middle-aged man with a serious demeanor. He began by reiterating the details of our job as guides for the caving group. We would be responsible for leading groups of children through the caves in the area, ensuring their safety and educating them about the cave formation's history and the importance of preserving this unique underground environment. As he spoke, I couldn't help but glance around the campsite. The trees seemed to close in around us, casting long shadows that danced on the ground. It was as if the forest was keeping a watchful eye on us, as if it had its own secrets to tell. Then, Mr. Harrison's tone changed. He leaned in closer, as if about to share a closely guarded secret. He told us about the graffiti in the caves, and I felt a chill run down my spine. He explained that some of the graffiti was unusual and eerie, often depicting strange symbols and unsettling scenes. It was crucial, he emphasized, that we kept the children away from these areas. I wondered who could have created such disturbing artwork in the depths of the caves. The mention of the graffiti was perplexing, and it raised a multitude of questions in my mind. Why would anyone deface the natural beauty of the caves with such unsettling images? And what was the story behind these symbols? Mr. Harrison's warning about the graffiti made me realize that there was more to these caves than just rocks and darkness. But Mr. Harrison wasn't finished with his revelations. He continued by telling us about the local legend of the Watcher. According to the story, the Watcher was a malevolent spirit that was said to inhabit the caves, particularly during the summer months. As he described the Watcher, his voice took on a somber tone, and his eyes seemed to bore into ours. It was as if he believed in the legend with all his heart. I exchanged glances with the other guides, and I could see the skepticism in their eyes. It was easy to dismiss the Watcher as a mere ghost story meant to spook us, but Mr. Harrison's conviction left a lingering sense of unease. He warned us to always keep a close eye on the children and never venture too far from the group, especially when we were inside the caves. As the induction continued, I couldn't help but wonder about the mysteries that surrounded this job. The eerie graffiti, the legend of the Watcher, and the secretive atmosphere of the campsite all added up to an enigmatic puzzle that I was determined to unravel. Little did I know that the days ahead would bring us face to face with the unknown, and that our journey into the caves would be filled with chilling discoveries and a growing sense of danger. The first day of the summer camp arrived, and the excitement among the children was palpable. They were eager to explore the caves, and their enthusiasm was infectious. As a guide, it was my responsibility to ensure their safety and make this experience educational and enjoyable. We gathered the campers, aged 10 to 15, near the entrance of the cave. The mouth of the cave yawned before us, a dark and mysterious portal into the earth. The kids were buzzing with curiosity and energy, their backpacks filled with water bottles, flashlights, and snacks. I introduced myself to the group, trying to ease their nerves. I told them my name, and they told me theirs: Sarah, Ben, Emma, Lucas, and more. They were a diverse bunch, each with their own unique personality and sense of wonder. With the campers in tow, we ventured into the cave. The initial tunnel was wide enough to accommodate us comfortably, and the echoes of our footsteps bounced off the rocky walls. I could hear the kids whispering to each other, their voices a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As we moved deeper into the cave, the atmosphere began to change. The natural light from the cave entrance grew faint, and we had to rely more on our flashlights to see. The walls of the cave seemed to close in around us, and the tunnel twisted and turned, creating a sense of disorientation. It wasn't long before we encountered the first signs of the strange graffiti Mr. Harrison had warned us about. As the beam of my flashlight swept across the cave wall, I spotted unusual symbols and eerie scenes painted in vivid colors. The kids were drawn to it, their curiosity overriding their caution. I had to remind them to stay away from the graffiti, just as Mr. Harrison had instructed. The graffiti was unsettling. It depicted strange creatures, symbols I couldn't decipher, and scenes that seemed to tell a story, one I didn't want to understand. It made me wonder who would come into these caves to create such disturbing art, and what was the purpose behind it. We continued deeper into the cave, and the graffiti became more prevalent. It was as if the walls themselves were trying to communicate something to us, something we couldn't quite grasp. The eerie images seemed to follow us, their eyes and faces watching our every move. Despite the unsettling nature of the graffiti, the children remained excited, eager to explore the hidden corners of the cave. They asked questions about the rock formations, the stalactites hanging from the ceiling, and the history of the cave. I did my best to answer their questions, keeping the mood light and educational. As we ventured further into the cave, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The air grew colder, and strange sounds echoed through the tunnels. A distant drip of water, the occasional rustling of unseen creatures. I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. Little did I know that this maiden expedition into the cave was only the beginning of our journey into the unknown. The eerie graffiti and the mysterious atmosphere of the caves would soon lead us down a path filled with unexpected twists and growing apprehension. As our days at the camp continued, our group of young campers became a close-knit bunch. We laughed together, shared stories, and learned about the wonders of the cave, all while trying to ignore the eerie graffiti that adorned the cave walls. But one fateful day, the atmosphere took a sinister turn that none of us could have anticipated. The day started like any other. The campers were full of excitement as we geared up for our expedition into the cave. Mia, Liam, Olivia, and I took turns checking our equipment and ensuring everyone had their flashlights, helmets, and water bottles. The kids chattered away, their voices echoing off the cave walls. Among our campers was a bright and adventurous boy named Ethan. He had a constant curiosity and a smile that could light up the darkest corners of the cave. Ethan had become a favorite among all the guides. He was eager to explore, always asking questions, and his enthusiasm was infectious. As we delved deeper into the cave that day, I noticed that Ethan was particularly animated, pointing out rock formations and asking about the strange graffiti. He was a natural explorer, and I couldn't help but admire his enthusiasm. But little did I know that this expedition would take a dark and unsettling turn. We had reached a part of the cave where the tunnels split in different directions. Maya and Liam took one group of campers down one path, while Olivia and I led Ethan and a few others down another. It was supposed to be a routine exploration, but that's when everything changed. As we explored the winding tunnels, I noticed that Ethan had fallen behind. I turned to look for him, and my heart sank when I realized he was no longer with us. Panic gripped me as I called out his name, and the other campers joined in the search. We retraced our steps, shining our flashlights into every crevice, but there was no sign of Ethan. Fear washed over us like a cold wave. How could a camper simply vanish in the middle of the cave? It defied all logic. Olivia radioed Mia and Liam, informing them of the situation. We decided to regroup and conduct a thorough search of the area. The minutes felt like hours as we combed through the tunnels, calling out for Ethan, our voices echoing eerily through the cave. But there was no response, and the walls seemed to hold on to our cries, absorbing them into the darkness. The children were scared, their faces pale with worry. I tried to reassure them, but my own fear was growing with each passing moment. We couldn't find Ethan, and the cave that had once felt like an exciting adventure had become a labyrinth of uncertainty. Olivia contacted Mr. Harrison through the radio, informing him of the situation. He assured us that help was on the way, but in the heart of the cave, our sense of time was distorted, and each minute without Ethan felt like an eternity. As we continued our search, a chilling thought crossed my mind. Could this have something to do with the legend of the Watcher? I pushed the idea aside, telling myself it was just a story, but the unease remained. The disappearance of Ethan had cast a shadow over our once thrilling expedition, leaving us with a haunting question. What had happened to him in the depths of the cave, and where could he possibly be in this subterranean maze? Ethan's disappearance sent shockwaves through our group of campers and guides, leaving us all in a state of anxious uncertainty. The cave, once a place of excitement and wonder, had become a source of fear and confusion. As we continued our search for Ethan, the legend of the Watcher began to creep into our thoughts, casting a chilling shadow over our actions. We regrouped near the last spot where we had seen Ethan, our flashlights cutting through the darkness as we scanned every nook and cranny of the cave. Olivia and I were both visibly shaken, trying to put on a brave face for the campers, but the worry in their eyes mirrored our own. It was during this tense moment that Brian, one of the older campers, approached us. He was a thoughtful and perceptive young man who had been with us since the beginning of the camp. Brian had been quiet throughout the ordeal, but now he spoke up, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. He began to tell us about the local legend of the Watcher. According to Brian, the story had been passed down for generations among the people who lived near the caves. The Watcher was said to be an ancient and malevolent spirit that dwelled deep within the cave system. It was rumored to appear during the summer months, especially when strangers entered the caves. As Brian recounted the legend, he described the Watcher as a shadowy figure with glowing eyes that could pierce the darkness. It was said to have the power to manipulate the minds of those it encountered, leading them deeper into the caves and away from safety. The more he spoke, the more the legend seemed to come to life in our minds. I exchanged glances with Olivia, and I could see the doubt in her eyes. We were rational people, and the idea of a supernatural entity haunting the caves seemed absurd. But as Brian continued, his description of the Watcher's eerie presence and its alleged influence over those who entered its domain sent shivers down my spine. Brian also mentioned that the Watcher was said to be responsible for strange occurrences in the caves, including the appearance of the unsettling graffiti. He believed that the Watcher's influence was behind the disappearance of Ethan, as if the spirit had lured him away from the group. While I wanted to dismiss the legend as a mere superstition, the unease in the cave and the unexplained disappearance of a camper made it difficult to ignore Brian's words. The other campers listened intently, their fear growing as they contemplated the possibility that something sinister lurked in the shadows. As we continued our search for Ethan, it became increasingly clear that the legend of the Watcher was embedded in the minds of everyone in our group. Even though we tried to remain rational and focused on the task at hand, the legend had sown a seed of doubt and fear that we couldn't easily shake. The cave, once a place of natural beauty and wonder, had now become a realm of uncertainty and foreboding. With each passing minute, the question of whether the Watcher was real or just a story weighed heavily on our minds, intensifying the already palpable sense of danger within the caves. As we continued our search for Ethan, the unsettling atmosphere in the cave seemed to close in around us. The walls bore witness to the eerie graffiti that had taken on a more prominent role in our minds, especially after Brian's unsettling tale of the Watcher. The graffiti, once a mere backdrop to our journey, now became a focal point, raising questions about its origin and meaning. We gathered near one of the more intricate and unsettling sections of graffiti in the cave. The artwork was more than just random scribbles. It told a story that I couldn't quite decipher. The images were disturbing, depicting strange creatures, grotesque rituals, and shadowy figures. I couldn't help but wonder who could have created such disturbing art in the depths of the cave. It was as if someone had deliberately defiled this natural wonder with these unsettling images. The campers were drawn to it, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and unease. I had to remind them to stay away from the graffiti, even though it seemed to exert a strange, almost hypnotic pull. Despite my efforts to keep the campers at a safe distance, I couldn't resist examining the graffiti more closely. The more I looked, the more it seemed like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Some of the symbols resembled ancient runes, while others looked like they belonged to no known language. One particularly striking image depicted a figure with hollow eyes and outstretched arms, surrounded by smaller, distorted figures in various states of agony. It sent a chill down my spine and reminded me of the legend of the Watcher that Brian had shared with us. Could there be a connection between the graffiti and the malevolent spirit said to inhabit these caves? As I studied the graffiti, I couldn't help but notice that it seemed to tell a story. It was as if someone had meticulously painted these images with a purpose, and that purpose remained a mystery to us. I wondered if there was a hidden message, a warning, or perhaps a clue that could help us find Ethan. Olivia, who had been equally captivated by the graffiti, began to take notes, jotting down the symbols and trying to decipher their meaning. It was clear that we were dealing with something beyond our comprehension, something that defied explanation. The campers, too, were affected by the eerie art. They whispered among themselves, speculating about its origin and significance. Some of them even began to share their own theories, ranging from secret societies to alien encounters. The atmosphere in the cave became increasingly tense, as if the very walls were listening to our discussions. As we continued our search for Ethan, the graffiti remained a constant presence in the cave, a silent witness to our growing unease. It was a reminder that there were mysteries lurking in the depths, and that the cave held secrets that we were only beginning to uncover. Little did we know that the disturbing graffiti was just the beginning of the enigmas that would confront us in the cave. The more we explored, the more questions arose, and the sense of danger within those underground passages continued to grow. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the cave grew with every expedition. The unsettling graffiti and the disappearance of Ethan cast a long shadow over our group. Our once eager campers now entered the cave with a mix of excitement and trepidation, their wide smiles replaced by cautious glances at the cave walls. Each expedition brought us deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels, where the eerie atmosphere seemed to intensify. The walls of the cave closed in around us, and the echoes of our footsteps reverberated in the narrow passages. The campers clung to their flashlights, their small beams of light piercing the oppressive darkness. The graffiti, which had started as a mere curiosity, had now become a constant presence in our minds. It was as if the strange symbols and unsettling scenes were watching us, their silent eyes following our every move. The campers, despite our warnings, couldn't help but be drawn to the eerie artwork, their curiosity overriding their fear. As guides, we did our best to maintain a sense of normalcy and keep the kids engaged in the wonders of the cave. We taught them about the unique rock formations, the history of the cave, and the delicate balance of the underground ecosystem. But despite our efforts, the growing sense of unease remained. Strange noises echoed through the tunnels, a distant drip of water, the faint scuttling of unseen creatures, and sometimes an eerie whisper that seemed to come from nowhere. The campers would exchange nervous glances when they heard these sounds, and I could see their fear reflected in their wide eyes. I tried to reassure them, telling them that these were just normal cave sounds, but my own fear lingered beneath the surface. The cave had changed since our first expedition. It had become more than just a place of wonder. It had become a place of mystery and growing apprehension. During one of our expeditions, as we explored a particularly narrow passage, we came across a section of the cave wall that was covered in graffiti from floor to ceiling. The images were even more disturbing than before, and the campers recoiled in fear as they took in the grotesque scenes. I couldn't help but wonder who had created this disturbing artwork and what drove them to do it in the depths of the cave. The symbols and scenes seemed to convey a dark narrative, one that I couldn't fully grasp. It was as if the graffiti was trying to tell us something, but the message remained elusive. The campers began to ask questions about the graffiti, their voices trembling with a mix of curiosity and dread. They wanted to know what it meant, who had painted it, and why it was here. I had no answers, and I could see the frustration in their faces as they grappled with the unsettling mystery. As we continued deeper into the cave, the atmosphere grew more oppressive, and the sense of being watched became undeniable. The campers whispered among themselves, sharing their own theories and fears. Some believed that the graffiti was a message from the watcher, while others thought it was a warning to stay away. Despite our best efforts to maintain our composure, the escalating dread within the cave was impossible to ignore. It was as if the very walls were closing in on us, and the darkness held secrets that we couldn't fathom. The cave had become a place of both wonder and terror, and each expedition brought us closer to a chilling realization. Something was lurking in the depths, and it was far from friendly. Our journeys into the cave had become a chilling mix of wonder and fear, as the unsettling graffiti and the legend of the Watcher continued to haunt our every step. But it was during one fateful expedition that we stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within the cave, a discovery that would change everything and plunge us further into the heart of the mystery. The day had started like any other. The campers, though visibly more cautious now, were still eager to explore the caves. Olivia and I led our group through the winding tunnels, the air growing colder as we ventured deeper into the underground labyrinth. As we followed the twists and turns of the cave, I noticed an unusual crack in the cave wall. It was barely noticeable, but something about it caught my attention. I approached it cautiously and shone my flashlight on it. To my surprise, the crack widened, revealing a hidden passage. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to explore this uncharted path. The campers watched with a mix of excitement and trepidation as I carefully led the way. The passage was narrow and claustrophobic, and it felt like we were entering a hidden world within the cave. After what felt like an eternity of crawling through tight spaces, we emerged into a chamber unlike any other we had seen. It was as if we had stepped into another realm. The walls of the chamber were adorned with even more elaborate and disturbing graffiti, and strange relics and symbols were scattered across the floor. The campers gasped in awe and terror at the sight before them. The chamber seemed to tell a story of its own, one that was intertwined with the eerie graffiti and the legend of the Watcher. There were peculiar objects like candles that had long burned out, remnants of what seemed to be rituals performed in this hidden chamber. Olivia and I exchanged glances, our hearts pounding in our chests. It was clear that we had stumbled upon something significant, something that held the key to unraveling the mysteries of the cave. The campers, too, were wide-eyed, their fear mingling with a newfound sense of curiosity. We began to examine the symbols and relics more closely, taking notes and photographs to document our discovery. Some of the symbols resembled those in the graffiti, while others seemed more ancient and obscure. It was as if this chamber held the answers to the questions that had plagued us since our first expedition. But as we delved deeper into our investigation, a sense of foreboding settled in the chamber. It was as if we were intruding upon something sacred and forbidden, something that should have remained hidden in the depths of the cave. The campers, initially excited by the discovery, began to express their unease. They whispered among themselves, their voices filled with trepidation. I could see the fear in their eyes, and I couldn't blame them. We were in a place that felt both awe-inspiring and ominous, a place that defied explanation. As we prepared to leave the chamber and rejoin the main group, a feeling of dread washed over me. I couldn't shake the sense that we had uncovered something that should have remained hidden, something that had been deliberately concealed within the cave's depths. Little did I know that our discovery would lead us down an even darker path, one that would challenge our understanding of the cave, the Watcher, and the mysteries that lurked in the shadows. The Forbidden Chamber was just the beginning of our descent into the unknown, and the true nature of the cave was about to reveal itself in ways we could never have imagined. Our discovery of the hidden chamber had opened a door to a deeper level of mystery within the cave. As we rejoined the main group and continued our explorations, the sense of foreboding and the weight of the unknown grew with each step. It was as if the chamber had unlocked a series of events that would test our courage and resolve to the limit. The campers, though initially excited by our discovery, had become more cautious. They whispered among themselves about the strange symbols and artifacts we had found in the chamber. Some were convinced that we had stumbled upon evidence of a secret society, while others believed that the cave was home to ancient rituals. The chamber's eerie atmosphere had left an indelible mark on their young minds. As we ventured deeper into the cave, the atmosphere grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around us. The campers clung to their flashlights, their beams of light creating fleeting islands of warmth and safety in the surrounding darkness. It was during one of our expeditions that we reached a fork in the cave's tunnels. The path to the right was the one we had always taken, leading to familiar passages and the entrance. But the path to the left was uncharted territory, a dark corridor that seemed to beckon us with an eerie allure. A sense of curiosity and unease hung in the air as we debated which path to take. Olivia and I exchanged a knowing glance. We felt a compelling urge to explore the unknown, to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the depths of the cave. We decided to lead our group down the left path, into the darkness. The campers followed hesitantly, their flashlights cutting through the inky blackness. The further we ventured, the more the cave seemed to change. The walls became jagged and uneven, and the tunnels grew narrower, forcing us to squeeze through tight spaces. It was as if the cave itself was leading us deeper into its secrets, like a riddle waiting to be solved. As we pressed on, strange occurrences became more frequent. Unusual sounds echoed through the tunnels, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and the sensation of being watched from the shadows. The campers exchanged nervous glances, their fear mounting with every step. Olivia and I tried to maintain a sense of composure, but the unease was palpable. The cave had become an ever-shifting labyrinth, and we were its reluctant explorers. The graffiti on the walls continued to tell its unsettling story, adding to the sense of dread that hung over us. Hours passed, and it felt as though we had descended into a world of perpetual darkness. The campers clung to us, their trust in our guidance their only source of comfort. I could see the fear in their eyes, and I wished I had the answers they sought. Suddenly, as we turned a corner, we stumbled upon a chamber unlike any we had seen before. It was vast and cavernous, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in more graffiti, but this time it was different. It seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, the symbols and figures coming to life as our flashlights swept over them. In the center of the chamber stood a large stone altar, and surrounding it were candles that flickered with an ethereal light. It was a scene that sent shivers down our spines, a scene that defied explanation. As we approached the altar, a realization dawned upon us. We had stumbled upon the very heart of the mystery, the epicenter of the strange occurrences within the cave. But what was the purpose of this chamber, and who had created it? The campers huddled together, their fear and curiosity warring within them. We were on the precipice of a revelation that would challenge everything we thought we knew about the cave, the Watcher, and the mysteries that lurked in the darkness. Little did we know that the true nature of our descent into the cave was about to reveal itself in the most chilling and unexpected ways, and that the answers we sought were just beyond our grasp, waiting to be unveiled in the depths of the unknown. As we stood in the enigmatic chamber deep within the cave, our flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls adorned with pulsating graffiti, the campers and I exchanged anxious glances. It was as if we had stumbled upon the epicenter of the cave's mysteries, a place where the unknown and the supernatural seemed to converge. The stone altar in the center of the chamber held an air of otherworldly significance, and the candles surrounding it flickered with an ethereal glow. We were faced with a scene that defied all rational explanation. It was a moment of both terror and fascination, as if we had entered the heart of a forbidden world hidden beneath the earth's surface. The campers, despite their fear, couldn't tear their eyes away from the altar and the strange symbols etched into its surface. They whispered among themselves, speculating about the purpose of this chamber and the meaning behind the symbols. Some believed it to be a place of ancient rituals, while others were convinced that it was linked to the legend of the Watcher. Olivia and I exchanged solemn glances, aware that we were standing at the threshold of a revelation. We approached the altar cautiously, our flashlights illuminating the symbols on its surface. They were unlike any we had seen before, intricate and cryptic, hinting at a hidden message. As we examined the altar more closely, a realization began to dawn upon us. The symbols seemed to form a narrative, a story that had been hidden within the depths of the cave for centuries. It was as if the graffiti on the walls and the symbols on the altar were pieces of a puzzle that were finally coming together. I reached out and touched one of the symbols, tracing its intricate lines with my fingers. It was cold to the touch, and a shiver ran down my spine. The symbolism seemed to convey a sense of reverence and dread, as if this place held a connection to something beyond our understanding. The campers, despite their fear, joined us in our examination of the altar. They began to share their own interpretations of the symbols, each theory more imaginative and unsettling than the last. It was clear that this chamber had captured their imaginations, and the allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. As we delved deeper into our investigation, the candles surrounding the altar began to burn with a brighter, more intense flame. It was as if the very atmosphere in the chamber had come alive, responding to our presence. The campers gasped in awe and terror as they witnessed this inexplicable phenomenon. Olivia and I exchanged a knowing look. It was clear that we had stumbled upon something beyond the realm of the ordinary, something that defied the laws of nature. The cave had revealed its secrets to us in the most unsettling way, and there was no turning back. Suddenly, a faint, eerie whisper filled the chamber as if the very walls were speaking to us. The campers froze in fear, their eyes wide with apprehension. It was a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere, a voice that sent chills down our spines. The voice began to speak in a language that was both ancient and unfamiliar, a language that resonated deep within our souls. It was as if the cave itself was communicating with us, revealing its history and its connection to the legend of the Watcher. As the voice continued, images flashed before our eyes. Visions of shadowy figures, ancient rituals, and a malevolent presence lurking in the depths of the cave. It was a chilling revelation, a glimpse into a world that should have remained hidden. The campers clung to one another, their fear and fascination warring within them. Olivia and I could only watch in awe and terror as the cave unveiled its secrets, leaving us with more questions than answers. In that moment, it became clear that the cave was not just a natural wonder. It was a place of ancient power and mystery, a place where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural were blurred. The legend of the Watcher had taken on a new dimension, and our understanding of the cave's true nature had been forever altered. As we stood in the chamber, our hearts heavy with the weight of the unknown, we realized that our journey into the depths of the cave was far from over. The cave had revealed its secrets to us, but it had also left us with a chilling sense of dread, a sense that the true nature of the Watcher and the mysteries of the cave were far more complex and unsettling than we could have ever imagined. The revelation in the chamber had left us in a state of shock and bewilderment. We had witnessed an inexplicable phenomenon, an altar adorned with cryptic symbols, candles that burned with unnatural intensity, and a voice that seemed to speak from the very heart of the cave. It was clear that we had uncovered something beyond our comprehension, something that defied the laws of nature. As we retreated from the chamber, the campers clung to one another, their faces etched with a mix of fear and wonder. Olivia and I exchanged a wordless understanding. We needed to regroup with the other guides and campers and share what we had experienced, for it was a revelation that would reshape our understanding of the cave and its mysteries. We retraced our steps through the winding tunnels, the walls seeming to close in around us once again. The eerie graffiti that had haunted our journey took on new significance in light of our recent discovery. It was as if the symbols and scenes were not just random, but part of a larger narrative, a story that was slowly unfolding before our eyes. When we reunited with the other guides and campers, we shared our findings. The atmosphere in the cave had changed, and a sense of unease had settled over the group. The campers, though curious, were also apprehensive, aware that we were delving into something far more profound and unsettling than they had ever imagined. Together, we decided to return to the chamber with the altar, as it held the key to unraveling the mysteries of the cave. The candles still burned with their ethereal light, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The symbols on the altar seemed to beckon us, their meaning still shrouded in mystery. As we approached the altar once more, the voice that had spoken before returned. It spoke in the same ancient and unfamiliar language, and the visions that accompanied it were even more vivid and disturbing. We saw glimpses of the Watcher, an ominous, shadowy figure with glowing eyes, a being of malevolent intent that seemed to watch over the cave's secrets. The campers gasped in fear and fascination, their eyes fixed on the shifting images before them. It was as if we were being initiated into the dark history of the cave, a history that was intertwined with the legend of the Watcher. We began to understand that this entity was not a mere myth, but a powerful force that had been guarding the cave's secrets for centuries. As the voice continued to speak, it revealed the purpose of the chamber and the altar. It was a place of worship, a place where rituals had been performed in honor of the Watcher. The symbols on the altar were a language of devotion, a way to communicate with the malevolent presence that dwelled within the cave. Olivia and I exchanged another glance, realizing the gravity of our discovery. We were standing in a place that had been touched by something ancient and dark, a place that had borne witness to rituals that defied our understanding. The campers, too, were beginning to grasp the enormity of what we were facing. The voice spoke of the Watcher's role as a guardian of the cave, a protector of its secrets, and a harbinger of doom for those who dared to trespass. It was a being that had existed long before our time, a being that had watched over the cave's mysteries for generations. As the voice faded, we were left in a state of awe and terror. The cave had revealed its connection to the legend of the Watcher, and we had become witnesses to a history that had remained hidden for centuries. The campers clung to one another, their fear and fascination mingling in their wide eyes. It was clear that our journey into the cave had taken a turn into the realm of the supernatural. A realm where the boundaries between reality and myth were blurred. The legend of the Watcher had been validated in the most unsettling way possible, and our understanding of the cave's true nature had been forever altered. As we left the chamber and made our way back through the winding tunnels, the campers were no longer the eager adventurers they had once been. They had seen something that defied explanation, something that had left an indelible mark on their young minds. Our journey through the cave had become a descent into a world of ancient power and mystery, a world where the Watcher's presence loomed large. The cave had revealed its secrets to us, but it had also left us with a chilling sense of foreboding, a sense that the true nature of the Watcher and the mysteries of the cave were far more complex and menacing than we could have ever imagined. After our unsettling encounter in the chamber, the atmosphere in the cave had changed drastically. The campers and guides were no longer the eager adventurers who had embarked on this summer job. We were now explorers in a realm where the boundaries between reality and myth had blurred, and the legend of the Watcher had become a terrifying reality. We knew we couldn't simply leave the cave and forget what we had witnessed. The cave secrets and the presence of the Watcher had captured our curiosity and fear in equal measure. We decided to gather in our makeshift campsite, surrounded by the echoing darkness of the cave, to discuss our next steps. As we sat in a circle, the campers clung to one another, their eyes filled with apprehension. Olivia and I took the lead, attempting to make sense of our encounter with the Watcher's presence and the cryptic messages we had received in the chamber. It was clear that the cave had a purpose beyond being a natural wonder. It had been a place of worship, a site of rituals dedicated to the Watcher. The symbols on the altar seemed to convey messages of devotion, and the voice that had spoken to us had revealed the Watcher's role as a guardian of the cave's secrets. The campers, though frightened, began to share their own thoughts and theories about the Watcher and the cave. Some believed that the Watcher was a malevolent spirit that had been awakened by our intrusion, while others thought it was a test of our courage and resolve. Olivia and I listened attentively, knowing that every perspective held a piece of the puzzle. The cave had become more than just a job for us. It had become a place of mystery and danger, and we were determined to uncover the truth. As we discussed our options, the campers voiced their desire to confront the Watcher and uncover the full extent of the cave's mysteries. Despite their fear, they felt a sense of responsibility to Ethan, the camper who had disappeared. They believed that the Watcher held the key to his whereabouts. With a collective sense of purpose, we decided to return to the chamber once more, armed with our flashlights and a newfound determination. We would confront the Watcher's presence and seek answers to the questions that had haunted us since our first expedition. As we made our way back to the chamber, the cave seemed to respond to our presence. The whispers grew louder, and the symbols on the walls pulsed with an eerie energy. It was as if the cave itself was aware of our intentions and was challenging us to face the unknown. When we reached the chamber, the candles on the altar burned with an intensity that defied explanation. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and fear, but we stood our ground. We were ready to confront the Watcher and demand answers. As we approached the altar, the voice spoke once again, its words echoing through the chamber. It issued a challenge, a test of our courage and resolve. The Watcher demanded that we prove ourselves worthy to uncover the cave's mysteries, warning that the path ahead would be fraught with danger. The campers hesitated, their fear palpable, but their determination prevailed. We accepted the Watcher's challenge, knowing that our journey into the depths of the cave had brought us to this moment. We were no longer mere guides. We were explorers in a world where the supernatural and the natural intertwined. With a sense of trepidation and unity, we moved forward, deeper into the chamber and into the heart of the cave's mysteries. The Watcher's presence loomed large, but we were determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As we ventured further into the chamber, the symbols on the walls seemed to shift and rearrange themselves, forming a new narrative. It was a message from the Watcher, a cryptic riddle that would lead us deeper into the cave's secrets. The campers took out their notebooks and began to decipher the message, their determination unwavering. Olivia and I knew that our journey had only just begun, and the Watcher's challenge was a test of our mettle. The cave had revealed its secrets to us, and now it was up to us to unlock the rest of the puzzle and confront the Watcher on its own terms. With each step we took, we were drawn further into the heart of the cave's mysteries, and the legend of the Watcher became a reality that we could no longer deny. Our journey was far from over, and the challenges that lay ahead would test us in ways we could never have imagined.